The winter solstice occurs midwinter on the shortest day and the longest night of the year. And for thousands of years, various cultures developed their spiritual, cosmological, and intellectual knowledge by interpreting astronomical events. In other words, they watched the signs. All over the world, this period has been commemorated with celebrations, festivals, holidays, and rituals, with several of them culminating on the 25th of December. Some of the festivals that evolved over time included the Roman festival, marking the birth of the unconquered sun, which Emperor Constantine favored. Another was the birthday of Mithras, the Iranian son of righteousness, whose worship was popular amongst Roman soldiers. It shared some similarity with the Christ story, particularly the birth date. Christmas was first officially observed on December 25th in the year 336. Most of the early founders knew that Jesus was not born during this season, because it is not likely, as the narrative as told in Luke 2:8, that any sheep would be out grazing in midwinter. Nevertheless, recognizing the commercialization of the season and the popularity of the worship of other pagan deities, church leaders simply decided to co-opt the date and the season by introducing the new Christ festival. Church patriarchs knew well the problems that would arise with placing the Christ story in the middle of an already wide range of religious rituals and practices. So they sought over time to distinguish and emphasize the worship of the conquering Son, S-O-N, over the unconquered Son, S-U-N. As one theologian said, we hold this day holy, not like the pagans because of the birth of the Son, but because of him who made it. Both the winter solstice and Christmas follow another important festival, that of the harvest. The harvest celebration is like the many other festivals in which people recognize the signs and changes of the seasons. The harvest was about celebrating what was gathered in preparation for the dark period, for the uncertainty of winter. A good harvest represented a better chance for survival during the dark period, where all living things would be at risk. The dark period meant scarcity, and it was unsettling for many, as many would not survive these very difficult times. You might say that people would enter this period with fear and trembling, not knowing if God or the universe or some other deity would claim them or one of their loved ones. So after the gathering of the harvest, they watched each day growing shorter and shorter, leading up to the shortest day and the longest night of the year. But the solstice marked the turning point. And although it was only midwinter and there would be many tough days ahead, these people realized that they were about to cross the tipping point. It was a day that marked the rebirth, the renewal of the sun. And no doubt they thought that if they made it through this period with the sun on their side, they might make it through the next. Now, growing up in the 70s and 80s, it didn't make sense when my grandmother said we had to stock up for winter. In the fall, she and my mom would can fruits and vegetables and fill 2 large freezers full of meat and bread. It really didn't make sense since the grocery store was right down the street. But now, I understand her mentality now that I'm a little older. It was about preparing for the unexpected. She was from a generation who knew that they had to survive every day, that tomorrow was not promised. Now, few of us can relate to this now because we live in a culture of superabundance. We have lost the connection with nature and what it means to survive. In some respects, we think that we have already conquered the sun. We can now capture aspects of the sun, put it in a machine, and 10 minutes later walk out with a perfect tan. Now I'm talking about you white folk. Here's the point. I've said all that to say this. Yes, you light folks. We have all had those seasons of uncertainty. We have all gone through hell and high water. We've all had those sleepless and dark nights of the soul, when up walking the floor, not knowing whether God or the universe would be kind to us. We've all had those situations where we didn't know how or if we would make it through. And many of you may have told yourself, if I can just hold on one more night, if I can hold on just a little while longer, well, I come to tell you, baby, that weeping may endure for one night, but joy will come in the morning. There is a new day. There is a new beginning. There is hope for you, my friend. The winter solstice represents the longest night and the transition into a period of ever-increasing light and day. It symbolizes the coming out of darkness and moving into the marvelous light. It fits perfectly into what the Christ narrative represents, as it marks a new beginning, a sign that all things are indeed passing away, and behold, all things are becoming new. Yes. And when the new dawn appears upon the horizon and you realize that somehow you made it through, in that moment, your soul and my soul will look back and wonder how we made it over. These ancient people knew how to survive. And these ancient cultures and customs exhort us today to recognize the signs. For they give us hope of a new day, the possibility of a better tomorrow, the assurance that we are not stuck with what we have. And one thing you can count on, baby, is the darkness surely won't last always. I'm done.